Drink it in, man.
Deep left side carry on. Picks on the block. At the 5. At the 2. At the 1 to the end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions.
Drink it in, man.
Get up, Stafford throws. It is end zone. Caught! Oh, baby, what a catch! Kenny Galladay, you're a freak! What a catch! Touchdown, Detroit Lions! Cornbread!
I love the Lions! Say it with me! I love the Lions!
Drink it in, man.
Detroit Koolaid, what is going on, everybody? We are back, and we are here for another Detroit Koolaid cast. Had another tough game this Sunday, but I got my buddy Grifka here. Grifka, what's going on?
And just not even really focusing on that game, putting it behind us, looking towards next week, and just had a Merry Christmas. So that's what I'm more focused on.
When we can say we're moving on to whatever the next team is, but it's after a dub.
Yeah.
Saying like, oh, let's put this behind us just because we're so ashamed to talk about it. But like you say, this is the Detroit Koolaid cast. Got to talk about our Lions and got one more football game left to play. But before we get to that, we're going to review this Vikings game and talk about some other things. Grifka, I have no news and notes, no injuries I feel like worth speaking of, no big updates. You got anything for me?
Not really. I think it's like a lot of stuff coming out of Allen Park right now. It's the end of the season and not a whole lot's going on. You know, the team's not going anywhere this year. So finding any decent news or hearing any decent news coming out other than, Matt Stafford, after his press conference was like gingerly walking through and had to bend over and pick up a bottle cap to his water, and he looked like an 85-year-old man doing it. So, we all know the injury status of the people, and we can all debate on what happened with the offense, and why it's, missing guys. But like I said, not too much news coming out of Allen Park right now. I think everybody's just waiting to clean out their lockers.
I guess there's a report, Grifka, about broken bones in his back. Like, did you hear that? What do you think about that?
No, I didn't hear anything about that.
Yeah, it was like one of those, like either anonymous or kind of on the sly reports, probably by your boy Dave Burkett, about how there's broken bones or a fractured something in his back, and I'm like, I don't know. It didn't have much behind it. It just seemed like, the guy's probably hurt, but if he had a fractured back of some sort and he's still running out there, that's just not smart.
Well, maybe he's trying to keep his game streak started, intact. He's trying to keep that intact.
Nobody cares about that when you play the way this guy's been playing. Nobody wants you to keep your streak and throw for 120 yards a game and no touchdowns. We might as well put Theo Riddick back there. He could probably do that. But anyway, so I saw that report. Now, you brought up something with news coming out of Allen Park. So probably the funniest thing I've seen regarding our Lions is the last couple times that, again, your boy Dave Burkett and the other moron from ESPN tried to ask Matt Pat about what his best Christmas gift is, or if he had a Merry Christmas. And give me your quick take, Grifka, if you think it's funny or like annoying or cool or frustrating how Matt Pat just looks at these guys and goes, okay, you got any question about the Vikings? Or, hey, you want to talk about Buffalo? Like, he doesn't even want to entertain these guys' nonsense.
Well, I guess the biggest thing is, like, nobody wants to ask you about your crappy team, Matt Pat. And, sorry, you're not the Patriots that are always fighting for the playoffs. So, yeah, when they're focusing on the next game, trying to fight for, the number 1, number 2 seed, everybody knows this team's a dog team. So, yeah, they care more about, you getting what you got for Christmas, or, like, what's your favorite Christmas present, or nobody wants to hear about, ask me about the Vikings. Oh, okay, here's a question for you, Matt Pat. How come you couldn't guard Kyle Rudolph? Did you didn't think you want to play any reindeer games or something like that? Or are you just going to leave that guy open all game? Okay. How about that? Or, so wait, if somebody asked you that question, you would just snap at them because they weren't sitting up straight and their hair was messed up. So, whatever. Yeah, nobody wants to talk about, watching your team get their teeth kicked in again, and you'll give them some, half-baked answer like you're Bill Belichick. So, okay, no, I find it utterly stupid for him to chastise him over that. Okay.
Early Grifka rant, and if the people are wondering, I'm recording from a different location today, so I don't have the Grifka bell. Otherwise, we had at least 3 or 4 there for a couple good Grifka OKs and a few other classics he threw in there. But here's my take on it, Grifka. These guys think they'll ask all these questions, and he'll give them these, coach speak type answers. And so they think they're going to slide something cordial in, oh, how was your Christmas, coach? And I think Call will entertain that, or always, let me tell you a story, or he'd, talk about his grandkids or something. And I don't know, they just don't get it that this guy is trying to redo this organization. He's trying to get this team going the right way. He's real focused. He doesn't want to joke with these guys. Or remember when he came in off, as the coach, and everybody's man, this guy's so affable. He's got such a good personality. He asked the beat writers what they like to do at the owner's luncheon or whatever. It's I think he's pretty focused. That maybe in the off season he'll give you some personality and some fun type answers and whatnot. But when you're having a season like this, and when you're brand new, and when there's just no time for any of this foolishness, and these guys think it's like an olive branch they offer him by asking something stupid like that. And then when he shuns them, then they write articles, Matt Pat not looking too happy or not in a good mood over the Lions record. It's just oh, come on. Well, you can't win either way with these guys.
I don't know. Like I said, if it was something, if this team was fighting for something, they needed these games to, either get in the playoffs or win the division. Yeah, then I can understand that. But nobody wants to hear about how, somebody, some backups got injured because your other guys are terrible. It's, I don't want.
So what's he supposed to do, though? He's supposed to joke around?
That point in the year. What's that?
He's supposed to go from pissed off and annoyed that his team's not playing well to oh, let me tell you a story about Christmas and my, did this at our a family party, or hey, I got this present. I really want to tell you guys about it.
Hey, coach, how was your Christmas? It was nice. And next question. Don't just ask me about Minnesota. Ask me about Green Bay. No, I mean, just, you know what? You're gonna go up to Green Bay. You're gonna get your teeth kicked in. Next question. You might as well have just a 5-minute conversation. Those reporters are supposed to be there to do their jobs and, ask you what the stone.
And your job's not to ask personal randomness about hey, coach, what'd you have for breakfast today? He wants football questions. And anyway, we don't need to go round and round about this, Grifka, but I think we're on different pages where you want him, just win something first before he can do anything. And I'm just I like that he shut them down, saying there's more important things than to joke around about my day right now. I got a lot of work to do.
You can be Bill Belichick when you win like Bill Belichick. Until that point, right now you're just coming off looking like a fool. That's what I think.
Yeah, I don't think he's a fool at all. I think that everybody is so down and doesn't see any of the things that are good. But like you say, I hope when he wins too that he just says, hey, anybody got any football questions? And then the off season, if you want to ask me what I did on vacation, maybe I'll tell you, but not mid-year or end of year, beginning of the year, when he's in game mode. So anyway, Grifka, unfortunately, do we want to talk about this Vikings game? I'm sure you're ready to just break this one down fully, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we can talk about it for a little bit, even though I already gave a little tirade about that game.
Yeah, exactly. Even started talking Packers, which we'll get to on Friday. But so, Grifka, here's my quick hits. We played good to start. Matt Stafford looked okay to decent throwing the ball when they let him early on, especially to Kenny Boyd. Kenny Galladay doing Kenny Galladay things early on. Then there was a Hail Mary that we looked like absolute fools on. The game's over. There you go. That was the game.
Yeah, well, at least they put...
that was it. There's nothing else to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, for some odd reason, I know you always like to say every team is different. From year to year, every team is different. The year before does not affect the this year's team.
Yep.
But once again, as we've said it before, the Lions cannot guard tight ends. No matter what year it is or who it is, they have difficulty guarding tight ends. And then, once again, they gave up another Hail Mary play. I mean, that was like probably one of the most poorly defensed ones I've ever seen, to be honest with you. I mean, Kyle Rudolph standing there, and I mean, who was in front of him? I can't remember who was in front of him. But the guy, one of the taller defensive backs, Shed, is standing on the back of the end zone. I mean, behind him, 3 yards behind him. Well, that's a good spot for it. It's just another one of those poorly defended ones. I'm surprised they didn't put Ziggy out there to put him on the sideline in case they try to do the pitch around and stuff like that. But
pass back and forth kind of thing.
Yeah. But it's
things
like,
of that nature.
I after that play, I really wanted to text you, "That's so Lions," but then you would have got mad at me, and
you would have ruined my Christmas if you did that. No doubt about it.
But those plays right there, like not guarding the tight end and giving up another Hail Mary, that's so Lions right there. You're right. I mean, they looked really good early on, and then for some odd reason, they just I don't know if they said, "Hey, we're like once again playing for the draft pick," but I don't know. I mean, I still don't think Kirk Cousins is all that good a quarterback. I really don't. I don't. I just think he gets a lot of love because he went to Michigan. A lot of people around him give him love because he went to Michigan State, but I don't think he's that good.
He's not that fill in the blank, Grifka.
He's not that great. You know what I said?
Oh, man.
You know how many times I said that to myself? I mean, yeah, like I said, any quarterback in the pros can make plays when you're just standing back there and there's like no pass rush and I don't know.
I'm just cringing right now because I'm missing the bell. We'll have the bell back on for future shows, but so
maybe you used it so much it's out of service. You had to put it on IR.
Yeah, we have a backup bell just in case the first bell gets injured. But so let's break down this a little bit. So I'm sitting there with my family, like I'm down. Beginning of the game, I barely got home from church, and I'm coming back, barely get down for kickoff. I'm at my grandparents with some other family there. I'm like, all right, let me go down and sort of watch this game. Got, fantasy football going in the championship, which I won, Grifka, 2 leagues. Chalk it up, give me some more hardware. But so I'm down there keeping up on the fantasy football, but I'm like, all right, let me watch this Lions game. Like I said, they get clicking and playing pretty good, even like, thought they would have the lead at halftime. So I go upstairs where my family is, and I had this Lions polo kind of tucked away, 2 of them actually, that I bought for my grandpa, who like never wears Lions anything, but he's been rocking these golf shirts recently. So I was like, oh man, it'd be cool to get him like a Nike dry fit, something real comfortable for him in the summertime. So I was like, oh, I'll get him a Lions when he can think of me. So I go upstairs. I'm like, hey, Grandpa, I got these for you. Kind of like an early Christmas gift surprise. So I give it to him. He's like, oh, those are so nice. He'll probably never wear them. But he's like, oh, that's nice. I'm like, hey, we should try it on or come out and watch the second half with me. Lions are ahead, playing good. And so he kind of comes and sits down. He's not a big fan, but he'll watch a game with me here or there. And he's sitting out there, and then my uncle shows up and a couple other people. And so we're upstairs as the first half is ending. I'm just kind of watching, chatting or whatever, because like I said, there's nothing on the line. Game doesn't mean anything. And he chucks up, first of all, like, am I wrong that like the play before, like they threw a pass and like was it Rudolph or Diggs or somebody didn't get out of bounds, and it was like a crucial error, but they had a timeout left, so they called timeout with 3 seconds. I have that right?
Yeah, Rudolph didn't get out of bounds. He instead of when he caught the ball, he turned upfield as opposed to making a beeline right for the sideline. And they were questioning that. So like, he didn't get out. And it was like 2 seconds or whatever is what was left or something. So
right, and I saw where they were on the field, and good, the half will be over, no big deal. And I saw they called timeout. I was like, they'll just chuck one up, no big deal. So they go back, they throw the old ball up in the air, and like, of course, my brain is saying, there's just no way. This doesn't happen to any other NFL team. And as you noted in the open, Grifka, it was the easiest, the least defense, the most frustrating Hail Mary I've ever seen in my life. It felt like they just stood there. The ball fell in his lap. All of our guys stood on it. I think one guy jumped, but he was like 3-4 yards behind the play. So like no one around the football jumped. He just kind of caught the ball, and my uncle looks at me and just laughs, and you could see the like annoyance on my face, like, "Sorry, Mr. D." That's what he calls me, and I'm just like, oh, whatever, you know. Like I don't know. I was just so mad. I didn't even have really words. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" You know, one of those moments.
Yeah, like I said, I wasn't even angry. I just like shook my head and thought to myself, that's so Lions. I mean, that is so Lions right there. I mean, like you said, those guys didn't even move. The tallest defensive back they had on their shed, he's like guarding the back of the end zone. It's like, dude, if anything gets behind you, it's out of bounds. Why are you hugging the back line? I mean, I couldn't understand that. And then the ball comes down, and he like, you know, sometimes when you try to make a quick move up front, your like knee buckles on you, and you kind of you stumble a time. He like did that. It like wasn't even smooth. It was just like his knee gave out a little bit, and he couldn't even go up to even make a play. And then, you know, Kyle Rudolph, I saw an interview with him after the game, said, you know, pretty much said it wasn't all that difficult. It's just like,
No.
I mean, if you read between the lines, that's what he said. Yeah, it's not that hard. It wasn't that hard. It was just like he wasn't even fighting for it. It was almost just kind of like when you're in the backyard with your buddy, throwing the ball as far up in the air as you can, and your friend just like stands there and waits for it to come down. I mean, it was almost kind of like that. It was like, well, it wasn't even that tough. You know?
That's not your buddies, Grifka. That's when you go out there with like your 3-year-old brother and you're in college and you throw it up and just snatch it over his head. That's what it felt like. I mean, you said Deshaun Chubb was on the back line. I want to say he was the guy that just kind of was half hugging Rudolph, even though he didn't make any play on the ball. They said Kenny Galladay was out there. I don't even remember seeing him. Like he wasn't.
He was playing the sideline 15 yards upfield.
Jim Caldwell called that one in. Hey, Kenny, guard the sideline in case they do that pass back and forth kind of thing. Oh my gosh! like you said, normally on a normal show, Grifka, if I had this team's taking my energy here at the end of the year, even though I'm hype about 2019, I'd be hollering at you for that same old Lions garbage you throwing out, or just this lack of caring. But like you said, there's been nothing to play for weeks. We have no fun guys to watch on the football field. Me and my buddies are going like, what's there to get excited about this Sunday? We can't watch Carry-On. You know, we don't have Marvin. We got like a few defensive guys, but even some of those guys are dinged up. Like there's nothing to tune in on Sunday for these days. And so like you're kind of rooting, but you're also like at the end of this game, I guarantee you, like lots of people were just like, you know, what a joke the game was, but hey, we're picking in the top 5. Like that's all you really had as a half a bonus at the end of the game. Other than that, it was just one of the most garbage football games you could ever watch.
Right. And like you said, there's not a whole lot to break down at the offense. I mean, we can, you know, bang our head against the wall and talk about the same problems that the offense is having. You know, I mean, I don't know how many times you saw it, that 3rd and 9, 3rd and 8, and they run something really short, or, you know, just throw it out to the flat. And I don't know why they kept, you know, LeGarrette Blount looks like he checked out probably 3 weeks ago. Did it even look like he cared in that game? I mean, really,
he just can't, like, he's trying his old move his feet at the line of scrimmage, and he just moves sideways, and the guys just knock him back 2 yards. I mean, I don't know what he's doing, and then every once in a while he'll break like a 12-yarder, and, you know, like, get excited, but other than that, he's garbage.
Right, you know, passing to him out of the ball was hitting him right in the hands, and I think one of the times it was a little high, and even the announcer was like, yeah, ball was thrown a little high. It was just like, still, I mean, just let's not, you know, give him the benefit of the doubt on that. That thing was like, it was like, don't get me wrong, it was like right above his head, and he wasn't even really stretched out that much, you know, to get it, running that little crossing pattern, and he just like, you know, hit his hands, and he just dropped it. And yeah, it was one of those things where
I'm done with.
Go ahead.
I'm done with this, like you mentioned, the sitting at home, 3rd and 9, being like, draw, screen, you know, these little throws to, like, are you with me that, I mean, I'm ready to move on from Theo Riddick. Like, I like his catching ability, but he hasn't made any plays, I don't feel like, this year. I mean, he's there so they can throw the 3rd long check down, and never going to get it. I mean, there was one play where he pulled his classic spin move. He didn't even have to, and it cost us like a first down or a touchdown or something. I can't remember. I was yelling at the TV like, why every play are you setting up for the stanky dead leg that he does or the damn spin move? Just get upfield. So I'm right there with you. Like some of these third down calls are, you just don't see them in the NFL. You don't see this kind of stuff, and you can't call it out before the snap like you can with the Lions. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous.
I mean, one thing I do want to talk about in this game that I did find very interesting, and I wish you had your bell right now because we talked about this before, was your boy Ricky Jean going off after the game, talking about how it doesn't seem like everybody's bought in, and you have to get the guys out of here that don't want to be here, and it's one of those things like how many people are there though? I mean, because he made it sound like it was more than just one or two in his rant. I mean, I don't know if you heard his rant, but it sounded like it was a whole lot of people. And then because then afterwards, like later, I did read later, people are coming to the, it's like, no, we're believing. I mean, are you? I mean, you guys have looked like dead fish the last couple of weeks. I mean, and that Minnesota game was just terrible. And it comes back to, once again, it depending on how many it is, you can't fire all the players, you have to fire the coach. So I'm not, that's not what I'm saying, but I'm just saying, like, how many is it if Ricky Jean's out there saying, not everybody's buying in? I mean, yeah, you can get away with one or two guys not buying in and kind of cover them, but if you're like looking at half your defense or half your offense not buying into it, I don't know. That's all I'm thinking right there. I mean, I appreciated his rant. I really appreciated his rant. So.
You're going to set me up for a rant right here, Grifka, even with my somewhat low energy today on this podcast. But a buddy or two reached out to me and said, hey, did you hear Ricky Jean again? And their take, which I kind of agreed with, was, did you hear Ricky Jean again? You know what I mean? Because it was kind of like every week this guy is going on after the game, and it's like, I don't know if that's the greatest thing ever because he's this big leader, or if it's like, all right, enough already. Like, we're sick of hearing you. Like, we get it. Like, there's not enough good talent and not enough people bought in. Like, we heard you the first 3 times. So, like, here's my thing, though. When you start saying, oh, it's the coach. I mean, you can't fire the players. It must be the coach's fault. Like, do you want me to go on my rant again, Grifka, about how all these players, even the good ones that we have here, have been so coddled and so, like, kind of the Detroit Lions country club that they finally get a guy that's won some huge games, been part of some Super Bowl championships, been part of all this stuff that wants to whip them in shape. And what do? They just complain about it. They just bitch about it all day. It's like, to me, that has nothing to do with the coach. That has to do with this organizational structure and these guys that have just been sitting around the country club twiddling their fingers. No wonder we lose all the time. You know what I mean? I think that's exactly what it comes down to. So I have no thought of like, oh, it's the coach's fault. Or, are they going to buy in next year? It's just, to me, it's weed out everybody that doesn't want to be here and start getting some grinders because, players, they might just be getting by on talent, but if they've just always been coasting and now they're getting pushed and are complaining behind the scenes, I mean, let's get rid of some of them too then. Like, this is one thing that's proven to work. It's a proven method. It's not some fly-by-night that, we had a couple good seasons down in Tampa or Jacksonville. It's just like proven guy, proven defensive coordinator, proven winner with an organization, and all we got is a bunch of complainers and weak people on this team. I want to keep the tough guys, but I think Ricky Jean's got his point across. We get it,
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it comes to a point where, once again, it's just one guy complaining because he seems to be the guy that is the one doing it. Like I said, I just like to listen to it, though, because it does show a little bit of fire. But obviously he hasn't, I guess, thrown his hands up in the air and say, no big deal or whatever. You understand what I'm saying? He still cares because I don't know, like you said, early in the year, you were just kind of wondering about some guys that had been here for a little bit, because they weren't saying anything, and it made you kind of wonder. And even when they got questioned about it, they seemed to hem and haw before their answer, and came through. And I think me and you were thinking about the same guy, and that's a guy who's still kind of under contract, but will probably be gone next year, and that's Glover Quinn. Not blaming Glover, loved what he did, for this team, but like you said earlier, you just, I remember earlier in the year, you said it on a prior podcast, you got to ask a couple questions, and he seemed to really hesitate before coming up with his answer. And I'm not saying maybe that's just the way he is, I don't know, but to say he's not one of those guys that, got used to the country club mentality around this place. And, when somebody came and, started, cracking the whip, he didn't like it, but I'm not saying that that's what it is or not, but I don't know.
Right. And the other guy I'd throw in, so coming in this year, Glover Quinn was one of our leaders on defense, throw another name in, which again, this is a guy I support and think that there's no reason if he's healthy and has, some players on his side, he can't have a bounce back year and still be good. But I feel like Stafford's that way on the offensive side of the ball. He's supposed to be the leader and the front guy, touches the ball every play. I haven't heard one interview where he really comes out and supports his coach or talks highly. He just kind of says, oh, he's intense and, I kind of respect what he's done. Come on, man. I feel like Stafford's a hard worker, but I don't feel like he's a guy that when challenged or when in the clutch moments is really, that guy that really wants to step up and be the front man. He does it to do it, but I think that he was used to too, kind of just going along his business, doing what he does, not getting yelled at, not getting challenged, and here it is. And so I don't think he's a big fan either, but so you got your two leaders on each side of the ball that are veteran guys that are on the back half of their career that aren't fully in. Or would it kill you to come out and just not only support your coach but be real excited about the future instead of just kind of going about the same old empty answers we've heard? So anyway, I think that's a good point you bring up about what Ricky Jean said. There's a lot to read into it. Both, is it Ricky Jean? Is it other players? Is it, can this get turned around? But again, I just wanted to harp on that especially after year one, bring in new everything. I couldn't really say it's the coach. I feel like the players are the issue, not only the talent level, but just the attitudes. Hey, there's lots of other teams in the NFL grinding away. I'm sorry you have to run a few extra laps and do a few things differently, but trying to win some games here would be nice down the road.
Yeah, like you said, it could be one of those things where they got used to the country club mentality, and it's just if we weren't running all this, practicing out in the snow, we'd be somewhere else, which I can't justify that, because I figure after the season's complete, me and you will probably do a couple shows where we actually go through and break down, everything and really say, what we saw, what we think, what needs to change next year. Because right now, just putting a, broad stroke, oh yeah, we need a pass rush. Oh yeah, we need more help in the defensive backfield. Yeah, we know that. I think everybody's watched the games know that. But if we really break down on what happened, more so than injuries. Well, yeah, every team has injuries, and where was the drop off at? How it must have been a much worse drop off in the replacement than what we originally thought, because I know early this year we both thought we had some pretty good depth, but that just did not seem to pan out this year.
Griff, what we'll have to do? We talked about some things offline before shows and whatnot, but out there, obviously we're super disappointed about this season. It's hard getting through these reviews when there's not really any bright spots for the most part to talk about. But when this calendar flips over, when our lines are picking and we know they got some cap space, me and Griffco will be ready to roll. So Griffco, what we need to do is we need to, like you said, go down through like we did and break down the rosters, but we need to find a way to make you a GM and me a GM and really cut this roster. There's some websites where you can actually cut the roster and get rid of guys and see how much money you have. And then when free agency opens, sort of pick guys that we would want the Lions to sign. And then even if the Lions don't sign them, whoever they sign with, that amount comes off your open money that you free up, and kind of see what team we could build if we had our choices. Because like you say, I know every year we always have our targets, our people we want, and when they don't do it, we kind of just sit there and sometimes shake our head, and sometimes we're proven wrong. But it'd be a fun exercise to sort of see who we'd be willing to get rid of, how much money we could save, and who we'd get if we had our choice of things.
Yeah, and like we had talked, I mean, I'm reading things like now it's already starting to pop out. What the Lions will have for salary cap next year. Who will be. Who we know for sure who's coming off the books, but. And, certain guys, if they release them, what they would be at. And I realize there's a lot of people calling for the quarterback, to get rid of him. But that was just a massive hit right there. I mean, even if you went out and just drafted your quarterback in the future, because, we can talk about this later, but I've seen those sites too. It's just like, go and draft your quarterback for the future now. You got to start thinking beyond and just, get rid of Stafford. If you want to see Lions fans disappointed again, go ahead and do that. I mean, I think if you were to do that, I think you'd be looking at a worse year than what they had this year. I mean, I'm just spitballing at you. Like I said, we can break all this down later, but
we'll have to. There's been lots to talk about it, but I mean, we went over it before. The harsh reality is probably 2 years minimum of Stafford, and in 2 seconds is that if he has a bounce back year next year, you just roll with this guy. I mean, I think he's 32, 33. It's not like he's in his mid to upper 30s. The guy has quite a few more years if he can get himself turned around and if the offense can get turned around. But if he comes out and plays like absolute garbage, we get a bunch of injuries, and he gets dinged up again and we lose a bunch of games, I think that's the point. Even with a $20 million hit, you probably look to draft and move on. But, it's all going to be told in 2019. Like, there's nothing they're doing right now. I mean, it would be not only a shocker, but you couldn't build a team if they were to move on. People don't want to look at the dollars and cents or all the things going around it. They just, are frustrated to get him out of here, which that's just not how the league works. Griff, I got one other discussion, and then, we'll probably just shut the show down. But
I want to. Before you do that, I just want to piggyback on your Stafford comment. If he has a bounce back year, and don't get me wrong, this comparison, I'm not calling Matt Stafford this guy by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not. I just remember years ago when I still did fantasy football. The league I was in, we had 16 rounds of draft for the number of positions that you took. How it was broke down, and I remember the year before. Was it John Elway had like 11 touchdowns, 18 interceptions, and he had been in the league for a while, and it was one of those things where people started questioning, has he lost it? Has he, not done this? Has he not done that? And as the draft was unfolding, I didn't take my quarterback yet. I stocked up on running backs and wide receivers. The old way of doing it, where you needed a running back to actually win fantasy football. So everybody else is like taking all these quarterbacks and stuff. I got I picked this is no lie. I picked every other position I needed. Defense, kickers, everything before I went to quarterback, because everybody else filled their quarterbacks and nobody took John Elway. I took John Elway in the 15th round, and I can't remember who my backup was. I ended up winning the league because I had Emmitt Smith and Curtis Martin and Terrell Davis at my running backs, and I had John Elway as my quarterback. And everybody's like, "Oh wow, that was a great pick." I'm just like, but I saw the same articles, that you were. People talk about Stafford. Is he done? He's banged up. He's been around for a while. Look at his numbers. And it was, John Elway had 11 touchdowns, 18 interceptions, but he was injury riddled, and Broncos weren't that great. He had a bounce back year. I mean, could Stafford do that next year? If it comes back where he's back throwing 4,000 yards again, has 30 touchdowns, and 12, 13 interceptions, people are going to be like, "Oh, that's great. That's awesome." So it's possible that he can bounce back and do it again. I mean, we've seen it in the past. I don't think he's at the bottom of the hill yet, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I don't think he's done yet. Give him the right offensive coordinator, give him an offensive line that can block for him. Carry on, stays running the ball like he did early on this year. Yeah, he could have another one of those years.
Yeah, I'm actually glad you brought all that up, Griff, because I loved even though you relate it to fantasy football, to me it's sort of similar. Like, if the Lions go out defense and add one or two skill guys in the right spots that are actual chain movers, touchdown makers type of guys, I mean, I think as we look at this record and we look at the way they've played, it's not really indicative of what they could be next year. So I think your example is great. Like, you loaded up on talent in your fantasy draft and then added a quarterback that people thought was at or below average and ends up being above average, and look at what it got you. I mean, I could see that same thing for this team. So I think you bring up a great point. I think we're all kind of prisoners of the moment of just being frustrated. I mean, 31, 32 years old. He's been playing quarterback since he's knee high. I mean, can still throw it all over the yard when they let him. And now supposedly has what they're trying to make as a run game or a better offense, over in general, which it's probably going to take a little bit of an overhaul from the coaching, but we'll see what happens. But I'm glad you brought that up. That was a nice take by you. And it kind of leads me into this last discussion point I wanted to bring up was like, I feel like we talked about it in previous weeks, but any clue why this offense seems to what I call turtle at certain points in the game? It feels like we come out doing certain things, with the run game, the pass game's working, whatever it may be, or we start slow, but then we get it cooking. And then it feels like they just shut the show down. They're just like, oh, just go into, conservative turtle mode. They don't want to open it up, and then these games just get away from us because we just don't stick with what's working. Like, was there any reason to sort of get away from Kenny Golladay this last game? He was eating up Xavier Rhodes in the beginning. I mean, then he has 50 yards in the first quarter and a half, and then I don't know what he ended with, like 80 maybe, but it just felt like they got away from him, and then they just don't have any other ball players, but I could tell from the second or after halftime we weren't going to do anything in that game offensively.
Yeah. Speaking of the Minnesota game, I don't know if they changed up the coverage to put more people on Golladay, realizing there's no other decent wide receiver out there. But like you said, this happens more than a lot of other games. More often than not, like you said,
every week.
It was just one of those things. I don't know, since they were playing decent early on, if they think, oh, we'll let our defense handle this, and if we don't turn the ball over, we'll win this. Our defense has this, and I don't know. It's just, I don't know if it's the head coach or the offense coordinator. But
they got to get that fixed though, because like in the beginning of the game, what they have, like the Vikes had 3-4 drives where they gained a total of 5 yards. I mean, we have to get it through our thick skulls that when you have gains like that, that's sort of the time, too, to put the pedal to the metal on offense. Not say, oh, our defense is playing good, so we'll win this game 10-3. How about go out and score some points for once?
Well, I think they do that more often than not when they get within within the kicker's field goal range. It seems they do that, and then it's like, okay, don't turn the ball over, we'll just take the 3 points. It just seems that
that's
way.
Not going to win in the NFL these days.
Well,
man.
that's what I mean. I think who's the color man this week? Was it Moose Johnson? And he just said he's just like even he said he goes, Detroit's dominating this game right now, but they're only up 6-0. Detroit's dominating this game right now, but they're only up 9-0. And then he goes those field goals, those are going to come back and hurt you. And because you're right, they just don't seem to go for the jugular. It just always seems like, oh, okay, we got this. So, okay, this would be a 40-yarder for Prater, so we'll just kind of run up the middle or try to run like a little dump pass to the outside, or everything's safe so we don't turn the ball over. And that's where other teams are like, fine, go ahead. We'll run a go route or we'll run a post route. We'll do something where we'll score the touchdown, and you guys settle for your 3 points. It's just, and that's what happened.
So pathetic for Matt Stafford having 19 touchdowns, and I think for the last handful of weeks he can't even get over the 200-yard mark passing. Like, are you kidding me? But Griffith, the whole time you were talking, I sort of agree with what you're saying, yada yada yada. But all I could think of is, why did you let Moose borrow your Christmas blazer?
He asked, and I have a lot of respect for him, the way he played the game, and he calls a good game. So he's even when he calls because it seems like a lot of teams, like a lot of colormen, when they played in the NFC, they always kind of bash lines like that Barber guy is not Tiki, Rondé Barber, no matter what. I mean, I'm not talking like when he calls a Buccaneers Lions games. I'm talking when he calls whoever Lions games. He's just always on the jock of the other team. It's like, yeah, Rondé, I realize you played against the Lions a few times, and And I'm assuming Barry Sanders made you look really bad, but get over it. Every other team that the Lions playing isn't, the early 90s Cowboys or, the 80s Niners or the 70s Steelers. It's just, he just makes them sound like they're like the Lions are playing some, formidable foe that like everybody on that team is just like an all pro and stuff. It's just like, okay, calm down there, Rondé Barber. And he's one of those guys that does that. And I just always like, shut up. I can't even stand listening to him, and he's got that always gets names wrong too. It's just like, yeah, okay, man, shut up.
Grifko, let's get back to the matter of hand, not your Rondé Barber rant, but why'd you give Moose your Christmas coat that you made out of your wife's Christmas table cover? Did you see that thing? The red,
yeah, I saw it
with the Christmas trees. That's something out of your closet, isn't it?
Yeah, I told you I have a lot of respect for the man. He asked for it. I said, okay, go ahead. You'll be in town. You call it a good game. There you go. Now, if Rondé Barber were to ask for it, I would have told him to take a flying leap, go get your Buccaneers coat or whatever you want.
Oh man! So Grifko was Santa Claus to Moose, but would have been Grinch to his boy Rondé Barber. But I knew that was your coat, so that was nice of you to hand it off. Let it see somebody else get some national TV exposure for that thing. I thought you would rock that at your work Christmas party. Handed it off.
Yeah.
Well, Grifka, I got no questions. This team has annoyed me too much for questions today. We went over the game, a terrible loss by our Lions. What was it? I think you were right on the money. We both were right on the money. I had 28-14. You had 24-9 or 10, something like that. So I think we were right there in the game, but it definitely was not a fun one to watch. Not a good effort by our Lions at all.
Yeah, I'm ready to move on. One more week. I know it sounds bad, but at least it's the Packers up in Lambeau.
Well, everybody, we've been hanging in here. It's been a really tough season. It's been fun doing the Kool-Aid cast, though. So like Grifka said, we got one more football game. We're going to come back to you Friday previewing this Green Bay game. I got to deal with that guy number 12 because he's out there fighting for his guys or whatever the heck he said. A lot of me and my buddies, we're always rooting on our team, but at this point, we're keeping our eye on that draft pick and just going to see what happens this week. But it's been tough. Grifka, we'll catch the people back on Friday. You got any parting words?
No, not really.
All right. Grifka always ends with a bang. So everybody, hang in there with us. We definitely still love our Lions, even though it's, energy's down. It's been tough. And we'll be coming back at you Friday for previewing the Packer game and talking all things Lions. So everybody take care. Detroit Koolaid cast. Everybody, we're out.
Pack the bag, start the plane. This game is over. It is over. What a comeback by the Lions.
Drink it in, man.